I'd like to talk about wise effort and the state of being overwhelmed. And in the first part of the talk, I'll just kind of review and refresh our understanding of wise effort or right effort. And then in the last part, I'll apply it or guide us into applying it to a big emotion like overwhelm, a big mind state like overwhelm. For many of you, this might be a refresher, so I hope you find something that's useful or helpful to you. So in the traditional Buddhist teachings, why right effort it's called right effort. I like to call it wise effort. And it's the sixth step of the Buddhist path of awakening, the Noble Eightfold Path. It's interesting because to me it's interesting because it's part of the mind training part of the Eightfold Path. And it's right before mindfulness and samadhi. And it supports both. And wise effort supports all of the different path factors. Wise effort is really about how are we spending our energy, particularly the energy of attention. So I'll offer some questions for you to sit with just now. As you think about your typical day, how do you apply your mental energy of attention? Just notice, just see what comes to mind. Do you apply it consciously? Do you just let it kind of go wherever it goes? Do you not even really notice? And what is your mental energy or attention? What's it in service of? Maybe many things, but you can reflect on that. And where is your attention right now? Another question that I like a lot is, what is our attention feeding on? We might not use that term, but the neuroscience says that attention is like a vacuum cleaner, right? It's taking in data, right? And a lot of times we might ask ourselves, am I attending to mind states and things that are in my life that are nourishing or more towards depleting? Likely some combination. So just some questions to activate your interest in how you're spending your energy, especially the energy of attention. There's a saying in mindfulness circles that energy follows attention. Where our attention goes, energy flows. And all the transformational practices that I'm aware of, our ability to regulate or guide our attention is a powerful tool for transformation. Sometimes it's the only thing that we can count on or rely on to support us. So wise effort means using our energy and mindfulness to reduce suffering, not add to it. With a balanced effort, we can, by balanced effort, I mean not too much, not too little, we can begin to notice two categories of mind states. These are broad, but we might think of them this way. We could start to attend to or notice mind states that we might call suffering mind states. And those might include things like really holding on tight to a desire to the point that we're really stressed and we feel that it drives us. It could be hatred, aversion, anxiety, overwhelm. Then there's non-suffering mind states. The times when we're being mindful, there's a lot of patience and balance. The heart feels generous and loving. It's easy to notice and care about ourselves and others, or easier. Sometimes when I'm doing a talk like this, I'll be reflecting on it, and then at some point something will kind of flash on my mind, or it'll just make deeper sense for me. And one of the things that came this time was that how I would say this is that wise effort gives our practice of mindfulness meaning, purpose, and aim. Wise effort gives our practice of mindfulness meaning, purpose, and aim. And that aim, at least in this path, is to reduce or alleviate suffering. And in Buddhism, this supports the possibility of realizing the Four Noble Truths. If you're not familiar with the Four Noble Truths, you might think of them as the framework of the whole tradition, the whole practice. And I'll quickly mention the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering in life for dissatisfaction, that it does happen. It's not all of life, it's a part of it. That grasping to desire gives rise to suffering. And there can be all kinds of desires. But the key there is grasping. The Third Noble Truth says that suffering can end. I like to add that it can be alleviated, eased, or transformed. I don't think it's a kind of an all or nothing proposition. I've had many, many experiences in my life, and I'm sure you have too, where suffering and dissatisfaction didn't end for good, but certain kinds have ended or ceased to be prominent in our minds and our hearts and in our relationships. So in my experience, the suffering of dukkha is kind of gradually releasing, gradually being alleviated. And then the final part of the Noble Eightfold Path says that there's a path, and this is the path of the Buddha that at least here in the insight world is the primary path that we follow or lean into. So I thought, how can I make this a little bit more relatable? But I want to talk now about what are called the four great efforts. And I thought that to do that, I might just use an analogy of a dinner party. And let's imagine that you're going to host a dinner party for a group of friends and a couple of friends of theirs that you don't know. But you're going to gonna plan and prepare and cook the whole dinner and stage the whole dinner. With Thanksgiving coming up, you could, I hope, I'm planting the seed that anybody that's cooking dinner will maybe think about applying the 4 right efforts to their preparation. So let's say the first right effort is called preventing unskillful states from arising. Doing what we can't always, but doing what we can with planning and forethought, consideration, to prevent unskillful states from arising. In this analogy of the dinner party, that might look like clarifying your motivations for hosting, the kind of why you're doing it, and checking in about any expectations that might be too high or too low or reasonable. You might be checking your planning skills. You might actually plan and be thinking ahead and looking at menus, right? But you're doing some planning. This is skillful use of planning and preparing and checking your attitude and your intentions. So in a way, what that's in service of is reducing your stress when you go to start actually cooking, right? So this is an example of how preventing unskillful states can take place in very mundane and simple ways and things we do all the time. The second wise effort is called abandoning unskillful states that have arisen. So there you are, it's the day, you're going to start cooking everything, and the mind starts spinning into some anxiety and starts to kick out some worry thoughts like, what if this is terrible? What if this tastes terrible? What if nobody likes anything I've prepared? What if, right? Now, wise effort, you can tell we need our mindfulness, because if our mindfulness is not online, in other words, if we're not aware, we might just get all spun up in that. But eventually we'll probably notice that we've moved into being tense and upset and anxious. And that gives that chance to begin to abandon that mind state, right? That worry. And then there we might pause, we might breathe, or I like to think we might do some compassionate reframing. Maybe say something, talk to yourself and say something like, it's okay. Chances are everything's going to be fine. It's okay. You'll do your best, right? Some way that you're starting to help yourself, make enough effort it may not stop, but you're making an effort to not feed on that anxiety, to not feed it, to not let it just go on and on. The third one is cultivating wholesome states that haven't arisen. So here you are now, everybody's coming, everybody's beginning to mingle and say hello, and they're starting to eat. And nothing has arisen that is difficult or painful for you, or you're feeling pretty balanced. So here you have this opportunity to cultivate paying attention. So that may be what you cultivate, is that just being present and aware. During the dinner, throughout the dinner, you might ask yourself that question, am I aware? Am I here? You might recall like feelings of gratitude or appreciation because it's kind of working out, or it's working out well enough. You might be dialing into, people chatting and whatever laughter and joy is happening. So And you're also then, if these states are there, they're starting to rise, these non-suffering, skillful states, these elevating states, these states of well-being. Wise effort would say, see if it's possible without grasping. We're not going to get super clingy to them, but just to look for a moment and see if it's possible to really sustain these good feelings. Just almost like you're just pushing off on something. You just kind of want to keep the momentum going just a little bit. Sorry, I realize this is kind of a simple analogy, but I think it's kind of useful because otherwise wise effort can be kind of abstract. And as I was preparing, I put together or something, right, we're involved in, and we have projects at work and projects in life. And there's so many occasions where our whole approach could be guided by mindfulness and right effort or wise effort. I wanted to give you a quick way to remember this. It's from Gil Fronsdal, Fronsdal, and he says, so somebody asked him, like in a real quick way, how would you sum up wise effort quickly? And he said, this is what he said: if you're making something worse, stop. If you're not making it better, try to start making it better. And if you're making it better, see if you can keep doing it. I like that. I know that that's not foolproof, but to make that little bit of effort, right? If you're making something worse, see if you can stop. I mean, that's a great beginning, right? That's a great start for anything. If you're making something worse, just see if you can back off. If you're not making it better, start making it better. And if you're making it better, keep doing it. So let's just take a moment. I'm curious, and maybe you can put it in the chat. You don't have to tell me what it is that overwhelms you, but maybe if you have experienced overwhelm, or you have a tendency to experience overwhelm, maybe just a note about what kinds of things. Is it relationships? Is it performance? Is it projects? Is it parenting? Time. Okay. Yes. What tends to feel overwhelming? And while you're thinking about that, never enough. Like never enough time. Yes. That can be how overwhelm feels. Yeah, you can feel overwhelmed by the obligations that you believe you have to others. Yes. What I said and what others said. Organizing to meet responsibilities can feel overwhelming. Yes, parenting and unexpected changes in schedules, for sure. Yep. This is a good one. Being a good daughter for mom who recently had a severe stroke. That caretaking role can feel very overwhelming. Perfectionism, procrastination. Yes, they can certainly feed and fuel a sense of overwhelm. Claiming my sense of holidays. Yeah, so much disheartening news can feel overwhelming. Yeah. Thank you for those, and keep adding. Yes, there are a lot of things that can stir up overwhelm. So how are we going to define overwhelm? I'm sure we each have our different experience of it, but just to offer kind of how we define it in psychological circles, that it's an intense state where emotions and thoughts are really big and they're really intense, so much so that it is really hard to think clearly. If somebody said, "What do you need?" you wouldn't even be able to tell them, right? So it's like it's almost it's more than just everyday kind of little bit of stress. It's like it does something where you just feel like I can't. It's too much. So we might look at how could wise effort help with this feeling of overwhelm. Well, we might prevent overwhelm as best we can by identifying the kinds of things that contribute to our feeling overwhelmed. Some of you are doing that just now, right? You're acknowledging to yourself, yes, these kinds of people, places, things, circumstances, inner expectations or standards or ideals for myself, they are areas that can set up my overwhelm. And so I think a part of preventing overwhelm is investigating it when you're not, is really being curious about it, and do it with a friend, do it in writing or in your meditation practices, really taking a look at what's that state like, what tends to fuel it, including the beliefs. A lot of times with overwhelm, and check this out for yourself, you might start having some what we call beliefs related to powerlessness, which are things like, I can't, this is too much, this is unbearable, right? And you have to kind of see if they're in there for you. Another way that you might prevent overwhelm from arising is to continue to identify some internal and external resources that might help you. So, and sometimes overwhelm will happen and you might not even be expecting it. In a way, it comes pretty fast. Maybe it's been building, but then it just kind of blows. And so what do you do when that happens? This would relate to the second wise effort we could possibly make, which is shift into non-doing. That's kind of what we're finding in the research on overwhelm, is that probably the best thing you can do, if you can do it, is like drop everything and go outside or go lay down or go and don't do anything. Don't practice, just stop doing. Just sit in a rocking chair, sit on your porch, lay on the ground, just walk, just kind of invite a space of non-doing and just let it sort of make its way out of your system. It makes sense, doesn't it, intuitively, that overwhelm is that the only thing to kind of ease it would be to do the opposite, which is to stop doing, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes or even 5 minutes. I'd just like to remind you of that you might try everything else, and your best bet would actually be just kind of moving into not doing anything. Just getting off of the doing, right? And just being there with yourself. Let the energy and the feelings just move out without struggling against them or trying to fix them. And it's kind of a way of being kind to yourself in that moment. And then once again, you're back in a little bit more regulated state, you might ask yourself, what do I need? What do I need to cultivate more balance? And sometimes that might not be external. A lot of times it doesn't have to be. Maybe I need to remind myself that I can handle a lot of things, that I am a competent, kind person. I have some faith in myself. Right? Maybe not believing that I can't handle things. You know? So what I'd like to just leave you with as I'm beginning to close is to just gently remind you that the path of liberation and transformation, it takes a lot of mindfulness and a lot of intention, but it also takes wise effort. It takes some energy. And it's about meeting our experience with compassion and the right amount of, or a balanced amount of effort, and also with our intrinsic natural awareness. For me, this is not a path of powerlessness. I've come to that understanding just for myself. I can't say what it is for each of you. But for me, this is not a path of powerlessness or helplessness. We have some agency. I'm not suggesting we have tons of agency, but we have some agency. And usually that agency is most potent, most powerful when it's applied and related or responding to whatever is happening right now. That agency is most potent in how we relate or respond to whatever is happening right now. In a way, that's our moment of influence. And the good news is things don't change. Things are constantly changing, but if you're in a state of overwhelm, it's not likely to change that quickly. So you can always, maybe for a while you don't notice it, and then you do. And then you maybe start to apply some skillful effort to move you back into a place of balance, impartiality. You might say to move you back into more of a balance of mind, back to composure. And we always just, as Pema Chodron says, right? It's not like it starts somewhere in the future. We are always starting where we are. And that's whatever mind state's passing through, that's where we start. And we forget and we start again. So thank you for listening and being present. And if you're making something worse in your life, see if you can pull back. If you're not making it better yet, see if you can start. And if you're already making it better, see if you can keep up the momentum. Thank you. So why don't you please take a moment, and you might want to sit and reflect a little bit, just a minute or two, or you might want to stretch. And then I'd like to offer one more meditation and then some discussion. Let's begin to come into stillness. Maybe adjusting or moving your body. Begin to let awareness rest on the body. Just bringing awareness to begin to feel and notice that you're sitting here. Maybe sensing the feet touching the floor, lingering there a bit. Maybe sensing and feeling the sitting bones sinking into the seat or cushion. And giving the lower body from the hips down through the legs and feet your full attention as best you can. See if you can shift from being located in the head to being located in the lower part of your body. Letting awareness move down, settle in. Just feeling all the sensations you can feel, the hips, the thighs, the knees, the ankles, the feet. And then when you're ready, coming back to feeling the breath, and just resting with the breath for a few moments, steadying the attention on the breath. And now see if you can expand, get a feeling for expanding awareness to include the space all around the body. Maybe even a sense of the space in the room where your body is sitting. Allowing the mind to be more and more spacious. You might begin to include sound. See if it's possible not to pursue or go out to get the sounds, but let them come. Come to you. Come to awareness. And now, in addition to the sounds, just begin as you'd like to include more and more of your experience. Making just enough effort to meet each moment with openness, without the need to fix or struggle. Let the mind be open. You might begin to be aware of body feelings, the breath. Sometimes attention might go to sounds. For now, just let the attention go where it wants to go, not directing it in any way. You might imagine and feel that awareness is like the sky, that it has this natural capacity to allow everything to come and go within it. Aware of what's being known from moment to moment. Maybe breathing, maybe sounds, maybe emotions, maybe being distracted. If you find that you're getting confused or lost or agitated, you can always come back to the breath or another anchor. Otherwise, is it possible to just rest back, take the backward step of being aware, and just let life happen? Still being present, without being for or against anything that appears. You might ask yourself, am I aware? Even the asking can wake you up to what's present. Resting as this open, aware spaciousness. Awareness itself is impartial, however, our thinking can be very partial. And see if there might be the possibility of just getting a glimpse or a sense of how natural awareness is already impartial, already not judgmental. As we begin to close, you might notice any appreciation you have for those who joined you today. Maybe even appreciating that you took the time, you made the effort to be here. To support yourself.